Are live on YouTube. Welcome, everybody. This is going to be episode 564 of the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. We are going to be interviewing tonight Mark Robinson. He is the lieutenant governor elect out of North Carolina. I see he just logged in, so we're going to go through a really quick personal news segment. We'll be getting to that in just a little bit. But staff, I believe on my end, we're ready to go. I just want to do one quick reminder, everybody. Please remember to comment while we are, like now, live on the air. And we will put your comments up, and we'll discuss them while we're on the air. Everybody on my staff ready to fly? I'm getting all kinds of nods, so I think we're going to go. All right, here we go. We are going in 5, 4, 3.
Hi, this is Matt from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns, and you're listening to another fantastic show on the Self-Defense Radio Network. Visit selfdefenseradio.net to check out all the other great shows.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. We're recording this one on Monday, November the 9th, 2020. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morse, and on tonight's show, we'll talk about a new Louisiana law that protects families when their children are distance learning.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk with Mark Robinson about his win in my home state of North Carolina.
I'm Amanda Suffolk, and we're going to discuss the continued fallout from last week's election.
I'm Robin Sandoval, and we'll talk about a Las Vegas incident where a homeowner fired into a bedroom window. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 564 of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast starts right now. All right, we are back and our normal Monday recording schedule. So we're going to go ahead and start off like we usually do and go around and let everybody know what we've been up to. Rob, what's been up with you in the past week, man?
I haven't been hit with a hurricane. I'm kind of feeling a little out of sorts. I wonder what to do when that happens. My city's still trying to stand itself up. I was on Bill Frady's Lock and Load radio show. I recorded another episode of Self-Defense Gun Stories. Made the time to dry practice. That was good. I put in my concealed carry application, a renewal, but now I'm waiting for the state police to acknowledge the receipt, and that only happens by email. And I'm kind of wondering how long I wait before I say, did you guys lose this? John, what's been new for you?
Well, I spent the last week on vacation at the beach. Being in a relaxed state helped my blood pressure with the election results. I'm still on a semi-news blackout, or at least network news, for the time being, so I don't end up screaming at the TV that Biden is not the president-elect yet. Projected maybe, but not president-elect. So how about you, Amanda?
Let me just start with election. And then my Republican office got egged. So we've got all kinds of stuff happening in Ohio, but I think our part of the election has been determined. And then I spent the greater part of a week at the DC Project team match. We were in Texas. It was pretty cactusy and kind of pointy, but it was great fun, and it was for a really good cause. The dcproject.info if you're interested in information. Robin, how about you?
Well, it was good to see you at the DC Project match, and I'm sorry that if we sent you home with a bunch of sticker burrs from my home state, they tend to stick on everything. But it was really good to see you and a lot of the other DC Project ladies. A lot of really great fundraising we did for our advocacy efforts. And holding down the fort at a Girl and a Gun Women's Shooting League, we have a lot of women anxious to see what might be coming down the pipe in the next few months, and people who want firearms and want gun training. So we've been really busy with new chapters coming on board and lots of training getting planned. How about you, Paul? What's going on with you?
Well, for me, let's see, we recorded on Monday, so there was this thing called an election. And we've been dealing with the aftermath of that. I'm still settling into my new position with the Second Amendment Foundation. This writing thing, man, that's a whole different deal than just opening a mic and popping off what's on my head. It's got me a little bit flummoxed, but I'm catching up and got some very exciting stuff that we'll be talking about in the next few weeks in relation to the Second Amendment Foundation, and I'm not ready to talk about it just yet. But one thing I am going to say is, starting this week, we're going to be debuting a new show for the Second Amendment Foundation called The Weekly Bullet. I've been putting out a daily bullet every day. Well, now we're going to be getting a weekly bullet, and that will be premiering this weekend, and it's going to be a 1-hour all news and interview show. It's going to be a little bit kind of like what you see on PSP, but a lot more in depth on the news, and we're going to be talking with some really interesting people, and I'm really excited about it. So that's what's going on with me. Let's talk training. Anybody have training that they're going to be doing in the next few weeks? Nope. Okay.
Not you, Robin? I'm surprised.
Well, we have a lot of events happening on the local level, and one of the things that has been a big initiative lately is to bring nationally recognized instructors into local communities. So to really try to encourage ladies to get out of their bubble. So not only training with your local instructors at your local range, but to really seek outside training to bring in, people who are subject matter experts and things that you might not be exposed to, and kind of do a deeper dive into some self-defense strategies. So that's really our initiative. So while I'm not on the range this week, I have lots of ladies who are.
Okay.
Very cool.
I couldn't resist teasing you. Sorry about that.
I wish I was on the range.
Okay.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and talk, before we jump to break, about the Self-Defense Radio Network. All your pro-freedom podcasts in one place. As those of you watching live can see, we're there. Self-Defense Gun Stories by this guy named Rob Morse, that's there. Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns. There's a lot of great shows on the network, and more are coming. At least 2 are in the works. So just head over to sdrn.us and check it out. Right now, we're going to step aside to break. We're going to hear from ACLDN. When we come back, we're going to be interviewing Mark Robinson about his win in North Carolina. Hold on, everybody. We'll be right back right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
All right, and welcome back to the interview portion of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Joining us today, and I'm very honored to have this person with us, Mark Robinson. Mark made a big splash when he went up to the Greensboro, North Carolina City Council and gave a very impassioned talk about gun owners being in the majority. And I want to say thank you, Mark, for joining us today.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. It's an honor to be here.
Well, first of all, I want to, I mean, of course, we have to talk about the election and your victory, but I want to start off, if you don't mind, about talking about that incident where you got up in front of the Greensboro City Council. You said in the talk itself that you hadn't planned, there was nothing written, that was all off the cuff. That was very impassioned, and it's got almost 2 million views on YouTube. Am I right about that?
Oh no, it's got on YouTube maybe, but on across social media platforms, it's closer to about 200 million.
Wow.
There are sites where there's 60, 65, 67 million. Another was 73 million. There's another that's got 49 million views. That thing it went supernova viral. I mean, it's unbelievable how many people have seen that. I get recognized just about everywhere I go, either now, of course, for running for lieutenant governor, before that, for that speech. And so, that thing it just went like wildfire, and it's still going around. And it's just amazing to me how just how much people love that message and have embraced me because of it.
Well, did you expect it to change the trajectory of your entire life when you were like, look, I'm going down there and I'm going to speak what is on my mind, and look at what it has done for where you and your family are going?
I had no idea that I was going to be set on this path after that. I thought that there was maybe that I would, after it happened, I thought some people would maybe say, hey, I saw what you did on down there at City Council. That was pretty cool. And even when it started, I thought, well, this will go on for a little while, and then people will go back to their normal lives. I'll go back to my normal life. I'll go back to work, and, I'll go back to school and get back to normal. But it just never has. It's just kept going and going and going. And I think one of the reasons why is because, oddly enough, what I said at the Greensboro City Council was just a small sample of what I needed to say and what I felt like I needed to say. And so they gave me a platform to be able to spread the message, the conservative message that I believe in so much. And so here we are.
Mark, you must laugh at this yourself, where you go, you walked in there, hadn't planned it, did a phenomenal job, a job many professional political speakers wish that they could go, I would like to put on an impassioned performance as good as you did. And part of you must tease yourself going, man, I wonder what would have happened if I'd planned it. I don't know that you could have done much better if you had.
Honestly, I don't think it would have been the same if it had been planned. It wouldn't have been. Even now, as is my capacity as a candidate for elected, or during my time as a candidate, I never write speeches ever. I don't write anything down. People ask me all the time when I'm about to speak if I have notes. I don't use notes. I just speak straight from what I believe, the knowledge that I've gained up to this point, and we just let it go, and we talk about what we believe in. In my capacity as an elected official, I'm sure there'll be times when I'll have to, speak from note cards, because there'll be things that I'll have to present, numbers and so forth. But when we're talking about the things that we believe in, we never write those things down, because those things are emblazoned across our hearts and mind, and we just let it go, and we just let God use us, and we talk about things we believe in.
You've been studying for a lifetime.
I would say yes, I have. I tell people all the time, when I was young, we never talked about politics growing up. We never talked about Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative. What we talked about was what was right, what was wrong, what was fair, what was unfair, what was good and what was evil. We filtered all that through our faith and ultimately searched our faith for the answers to those questions. And that's still what I do to this day. Those are the things that I concern myself with. What's right and wrong, what's good and evil, what's fair and unfair. You know, that issue of being fair and unfair is what led me down there in that city council meeting, because it's just blatantly unfair that our city council thought that it was okay to punish tens of thousands of law-abiding North Carolinians because of the actions of one criminal in Florida. And that just wasn't right. It's not right. That's not how this country is designed. And our Constitution is emblazoned with the words "shall not be infringed." And you know, somebody had to stand up and say something about it. So ultimately, those are the principles that drove me to go down there to begin with.
Well, Mark, I'm a native of Greensboro, and I proudly voted for you, as did my wife. And I know Greensboro has changed a lot since I grew up there. But I think you're kind of bringing it back to the way it should be. And we really appreciate that. Even though I live up in Asheville, and I'm just going to shake my head about that. And we will get back to the Greensboro, Davidson County area sometime.
Well, yes, Greensboro made a lot of progress when Greensboro City Council was a cross section of Republican, Democrat people who were concerned with moving forward for the people of Greensboro, making the lives of people in Greensboro better, building the city up, and making us into something we could be proud of. And when it shifted over to just being a conglomeration of people who are just there to push one agenda, it just seems like it's going backwards. I mean, we've got during these riots, we have a multi-million-dollar theater complex that was touted all across the news about how wonderful it was that it was built. And it sat there for weeks, boarded up with black boards over the window because we had all this rioting that was running rampant through the city. And we drive through the downtown and we see where the graffiti has been spray painted all over the buildings, all over the windows, all over the streets even. And it seems like we're going backwards because there is just one side dictating the conversation, one side dictating the narrative, and one side deciding how it's going to be. And we've definitely got to change that in the city of Greensboro, because right now we seem to be going backwards.
So Mark, tell us a little bit about Tuesday and how hair-raising it was. And
you can make jokes like that. It's okay.
Sorry. But no, I mean, right. You and your wife, it had to have been, I mean, on the edge of your seat. And I can't even imagine. I mean, just, it's like a huge risk that you take. You put yourself out there, and you put yourself out there so far. So tell us about it.
Well, we had people all around us that were telling us the whole time, "Oh, you're going to win, you're going to win, you're going to win." Just encouraging us, telling us, "Oh, don't worry about it, you're going to win, you're going to win." I always believed we could win, and I had confidence that we would win. But I never expressed that. I always expressed it in terms of, if we win. And people would say, "No, you're going to win." And there were a lot of people who thought we would win by a landslide. But, I knew that would not happen. I figured it would not happen because my opponent and I are polar opposites, and there are many polar opposites politically in the state of North Carolina. And so when the results first started to come in and we were behind, I was not dismayed, but I was nervous. And I was nervous much of the night because we stayed behind much of the night. But as the more solid red counties started to come in, we pulled ahead, never lost the lead. And once my opponent called in and conceded, there was hugs and tears of joy all around, and we've been walking on cloud nine ever since, and it just doesn't seem real yet. When I think about the fact that as a person who loves history, that I've actually made history now, that's just amazing to me. And it's just I just thank God for choosing me to fulfill this role, to fight for the freedoms of the people of North Carolina. I just thank him immensely for this opportunity. And I thank the people of North Carolina for the confidence that they had in me to vote me in.
We're starting to get some comments coming in on social media, several from North Carolina people saying that they're so glad that you won. One that came in from Charlie Chambers. He says, Mark was also aerospace, so you know he's smart.
Well, my experience with aerospace, well, I guess what he means is I worked in the aircraft industry for just a tiny bit, but it was just all I did was hand out parts. I didn't put anything together. Thank God.
So, if I could, then, in my home state of South Dakota, the lieutenant governor is selected by the person running for governor. And for the 4 years the governor's in office, the lieutenant governor goes to the Senate, and when the Senate's in session for 3 months of the year, does his or her thing in the Senate. And then for the other 9 months of the year, doesn't do a whole lot of anything. In North Carolina, a couple differences. You run for your seat. You are separate. You're in a separate race from the governor. And what are the responsibilities of the lieutenant governor? I'm guessing you're not just there to be in the Senate and then go on vacation.
Well, the lieutenant governor is the president of the Senate, but like at the national level, does not preside every day. The president pro tem would do that. The only time I would be in the Senate was during, if there's a case of a tie or possibly some other issue were to arise where I would need to be there. The other duties that I have, I sit on the state school board, which is one of the things that I'm looking most forward to doing, bringing a conservative voice to the state school board. I get to sit on the board of governors for community colleges. Also get to sit on the Energy Commission and the State Economic Development Commission. And so we're looking forward to being able to do those things. But there are some things that I definitely want to do with the time that is available to me. And a few of those things will be to take what's going on in the Senate, what the legislator is working on, take that and take it directly to the people of North Carolina to let them know exactly what's going on in Raleigh and why it's going on and why it's important to them. And then also there's some issues that we want to highlight as well. One of those things being we desperately want to increase veterans care in this state. It is something that is long overdue and something that I believe is a bipartisan issue, something that both parties should be on board with. It is long past time for us to stop paying lip service to our veterans and start giving these young men and women and our retired veterans, all of our veterans, what they have earned, and start making some real changes in this state and becoming the gold standard of veterans care across this nation.
Awesome. Well, we are coming up on break. Can I have you hang out for one more segment with us, please, Mark?
Sure, that would be fine.
All right, folks, we are going to step aside to break. We're going to hear from the Complete Combatant. When we come back, we've got more with Mark Robinson right after this. This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off. All right, and we're back. This is the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Mark, we got one more comment that came in on social media that I want to bring up, and that was Amy Dillon says yes to improving veterans care. I want you to talk a little bit, if you would, about the run for lieutenant governor. When did you decide that you wanted to run for that office? And having only ran for non-public offices, I ran for offices in the Republican Party, but I've never ran for office myself for either a legislative or a statewide office. What is it like to run for a statewide office?
It is I dare say it's a privilege to run for a statewide office. People would ask me all the time on the campaign trail, they say, "Are you tired? You wore out yet?" And I would tell them, being tired, I can remember days when I worked 12 hours in the factory, building furniture. I can remember 16-hour days at a restaurant. I can remember 16, 18-hour days as a small business owner operating a daycare center. That was tiring work. That was hard work. And that's the experiences of most of the people of North Carolina. What I'm doing now is a privilege to travel this state and to meet such great people and have such great support. And, go to an event and pull up and you see hundreds of people there that have, that were willing to spend their Friday or Saturday evening there with you to come and see you. It's an absolute privilege. It's a blessing from God. And it is a wonderful experience. And it wouldn't matter whether we won, lost, or had a draw. The experience that I've had on the campaign trail has been an absolute blessing. And we count it as something that is worth doing and something that is worth fighting for. And it's been a fantastic experience. We've learned so much and met so many great people. It's been a great experience.
I was wondering if I could ask you to go back to when you spoke before the city council. And, that I had read that video had been shared 200 million times. I know that at least several dozen of them were me watching it, and I'm sure that everyone here on the panel has shared it also. So
what particularly do you want to know about it?
Well, I'm curious as to how you felt about the response. Were you surprised at who supported you, who shared it, maybe who shared it without supporting you and, the opposite of supporting you? Did it surprise you who came to your corner when it came time to run for office?
Not really, because that video and what was said in that video has crossed so many lines. I met so many people on the campaign trail, all different kinds of people who were interested in my campaign and interested in me because of that video. And they said that what I said in that video, exact same thing that they had been thinking or they had said across at work with their friends or at the dining room table. They said they were expressing the opinion that they have, and they felt like it was something that desperately needed to be said. So while I'm surprised at how many people it did touch, I'm not really surprised that people did come to it and did agree with it. But I am slightly surprised at how many different types of people it touched and how many people actually believe in that common sense message.
So Mark, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Rob, okay. So Mark, so that message not only has got you to where you're the lieutenant governor, and I don't know if there's a lieutenant governor mansion or not, but I hope so. Mm-hmm. But it also got you on the board of directors of the NRA. So are you staying there? Are you gonna? Is there anybody else on the board that's at your political level now, or are you like Mr. Big Shot board on the NRA? So
I'm not sure.
Throwing that out.
I'm not sure, but I tell you, I'm honored to sit on the board of directors of the NRA. The folks at the NRA is a great group of patriots there that are fighting to hold on to our Second Amendment. And I'm glad to be able to bring a voice to that board to be able to keep that group viable because they're certainly needed in today's society. But we feel absolutely blessed. They were one of the first groups that reached out to us. Gun Owners of America has been fantastic to us as well. And those folks do fantastic work fighting for the Second Amendment. We're honored to be a part of both of those groups and to work with both of those groups. And we're, again, honored to be a part of a board member of the NRA.
We have another comment. Pat Carver says, so glad whenever a solid conservative is elected to office. What has been the reaction of the black community? And has it been far enough from the election that you've gotten any reaction?
Well, we've had a ton of support, crossover support. One of the oddest things about one of the news stations here that called our election almost spot on, had us about 3 points up, 3.5 points up. And it turns out that was the margin that we won by almost four points. They also pointed out something very odd that my Republican, the Republican who was running for governor, Dan Forrest, that 95% of those folks voted for me. The 95% of people who voted for him voted for me, but only about 79% of the people who voted for his Democratic challenger voted for my opponent. So that means we had a ton of crossover vote on the opposite side of the aisle, and I met many of those people. And that's a good feeling to know that you're able to affect change on the other side as well.
So do you actually have a Democrat governor and then a Republican lieutenant governor? So how is that going to work?
Yep.
For those of us who are in a state where our guys hold hands and go together through the election?
Yes. Well, we're sure we're probably gonna clash on a lot of issues, because I'm not gonna back off on the issues I believe in. I'm going to continue to fight wholeheartedly for what I believe in. And when I think that he is going in the wrong direction, I'm not going to bite my tongue. I'm going to let that be known. At the same time, I think there are things that me and Governor Cooper can work on together. And I would certainly hope that we can find those things and move forward and work together as well on some things. So we don't want it to be completely adversarial, but again, we will not back off the issues we believe in, and we'll continue to stand up firmly and fight for those things.
Mark, I pray that is what happens, that to the degree you work together. The beauty of your speech was that everybody felt it was common sense. You were speaking for them, and now you're going into the puzzle palace of the legislature, and there are all these hidden agendas, backroom deals, where people will say one thing in public but not necessarily follow through behind closed doors. Wow. The farthest thing from common sense. How are you going to blend that? Bless you if you can.
Well, that's going to be one of the biggest struggles we're going to have, is trying to make sure that we continue to push for transparency and common sense and all the things that we talked about in this campaign. It's very tough in the business of politics to do those things. But one thing I want to remain is true to myself. You know, I said during the election that I would rather lose this race and stay true to myself than to win this race and lose myself. And it's going to be the same way when I go to Raleigh. I would rather go to Raleigh and fail miserably, remaining who I am and standing up for what I believe in, than to go to Raleigh and succeed and give up who I am. I don't plan on doing that. I plan on staying the exact same person I am now, and fighting for the things that I believe in, and trying to bring as many people along with me so that I can do that as possible.
I've got one question I'd like to bring up, and I know it's super early. I mean, we're a week after the election, but in running for public office, you're batting 1,000, man. Is this something you're comfortable staying at, or do you see higher offices yet ahead?
No, we're taking it one step at a time, and I'm just letting, like I've been doing this entire process, I'm letting God take the lead. Wherever He leads me, that's where we're going to go.
So, Paul, are you saying President Robinson? Is that what you're saying?
You know, wherever the Lord wants to lead him, you know, I'm
that's right.
kind of out of that decision.
Wherever He leads. That's right. Yes, sir.
You're sworn in early next year. what kind of upset is this? Does your whole family have to move? The legislature does, I believe, have a partial year, but I'm not sure about the other duties of the lieutenant governor. You'll travel back and forth?
Yes, we will. We will not move from our home. We'll stay here where we are, and we'll travel back and forth, and we'll spend the night there when necessary. It's only about an hour and a half. Raleigh is only about an hour and a half from where I am with traffic, and so we will not switch homes right now.
Okay. That's much easier on you and your family. That's great to hear.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, Mark, let me ask you, is the lieutenant governor assigned a highway patrolman as like a bodyguard, or are you on your own?
No, we have a detail, a highway patrol detail. We do. We sure do.
Good.
Yep.
The very one thing that I have... I believe so. One of the things that I have to say about everything that Mark says is Mark doesn't say, I do this or I do that. He and his wife are a team, and you can hear it in everything that he says. And I just want to say,
I noticed that
Mark,
too.
Mark, I love you. I just that is so amazing to me. And and your wife is an amazing woman. I've met her, and you guys are just such a lucky couple together.
Yes, absolutely. My wife and my mom have been the two biggest blessings in my life. My mom, of course, had to raise me. My father, she was not. My mother was not a single mother. My mother was widowed. My father was there up until the time that he passed away. I was young. I was 12 years old when he passed away. And my mom took on the challenge of raising us by herself after he passed. And she did an excellent job. She did a Herculean job. She's the reason why I was able to be raised into a decent young man. My wife is largely responsible for me becoming the man that I am now. I say this, and all men know this. They might not want to admit it, but a man can't find the front door without his wife. And if we do find the front door without our wives, we'll forget why we went there. So I credit her with the success of my life. My wife has been a guiding force in my life and continues to be a guiding force. And I do everything that I say we, because I didn't do this alone. This is not something that I did alone. There was a whole team of people around me, from my mother and father to my brothers and sisters, to the friends that I made when I was in high school, to the friends that I made in all the jobs that I've had, to my family, my wife and my kids, to my extended family, and now to the team of people that I have around me who made this campaign a success. We are the reason why that I am going to be sworn in as lieutenant governor in January. So this is a team thing, and it will not be me being sworn in. It will be us being sworn in.
Well, that is so
well,
awesome.
I hope that I hope your wife has the same passion for the Second Amendment, and I hope that I can meet her someday like Amanda, but I would love to meet her at the range and have her go shooting with the ladies. So I hope that's a standing invitation that she would love to come shooting with us.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We'll take that. Yes, ma'am.
All right, we are running up on the end of the break. At the end of this segment, we have to go to break. These do go fairly quickly. Mark, on behalf of the entire staff of the Polite Society podcast and the Second Amendment Foundation, I want to congratulate you on your win in North Carolina. Obviously, it couldn't have gone to a better individual.
Well, thank you. We certainly appreciate all of you. We appreciate the work that you all do to continue the preservation of our Second Amendment, and it's an honor to be here tonight with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, we are, folks, going to step aside and break. When we come back, we've got our news segment we've got to get to, including, well, lots of stuff, not the least of it, which is election fallout. We'll get to that right after we hear from the Second Amendment Foundation.
America is under attack, and we need you to take action now. Our history, culture, Constitution, and the American way of life are being assaulted. Violent anarchists are rioting and looting in cities across the country. They are demanding the defunding of our police and an end to law and order. There has never been a more critical time to defend our right to keep and bear arms. The Second Amendment Foundation created the Second Amendment First Responders Program. This program seeks to actively engage Americans who want to protect our Second Amendment rights. Please text PROTECT 2A to 474747 and become a Second Amendment First Responder. Now is the time to defend our right to keep and bear arms. Text PROTECT 2A to 474747. Again, text PROTECT 2A to 474747. Now is the time to defend our right to keep and bear arms. Text PROTECT 2A to 474747.
All right, we are back. This is the Polite Society podcast powered by the by the Second Amendment Foundation. It's been 2 weeks. I'm sorry, I've been saying it for 5 years. Welcome back to the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society podcast. We've already kind of covered for the last half hour the first story that's up in news. Is there anything, which is, of course, the Mark Robinson election? I think we can go on from that, guys. We don't need to, or do we need to talk more about that?
No, I think we're good with that one.
I think we covered it. You ready to jump?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah.
You want me to take it, Paul, since it's
Yes,
my
sir.
state?
Absolutely.
On Friday, Governor John Bel Edwards of Louisiana signed into law the Kamari Harrison Act. This act gives families more options to appeal school disciplinary actions, and it requires schools to tweak their policies for at-home online instruction. This act was necessary after the 9-year-old, Kamari, was suspended from school because he touched a BB gun during online class. In fact, his little brother knocked the gun over. All Kamari did is pick it up, move it aside. But his teacher saw that. His teacher reported him to the police and then reported the family to Child Protective Services. They were going to expel Kamari. The school district's claim was that he'd brought a gun to school. He did no such thing. It's a distortion of the law to say that the online video presence converts part of your home into a part of the school. What do the rest of you think about that?
It reminds me of that case out of Maryland where a kid had an airsoft and then they sent sheriff's deputies to the school. And the deputies saw it and was like, oh, my kids have this. It's a zero tolerance in stupidity.
Well, this whole zero tolerance thing is that, well, it's an act of stupidity. Zero
judgment.
Right, because then they don't have to look at it. They don't have to decide anything. They don't have to. It's the everybody gets a trophy, and then if everybody does something wrong, everybody gets smacked. So same kind of thing to where they don't have to single somebody out for their actions. And then with the Second Amendment and with guns, then it's just let's reinforce all guns are bad. Guns are bad, even if they look like guns, or they're a Pop-Tart that looks like a gun, or there's a drawing that looks like a gun. You know, that they're all bad.
Amanda, see, I'm remembering myself as a school age, and I'm going, I would have so many Pop-Tart guns pre-chewed probably that I go, this is boring me. I want out. Here's the Pop-Tart, teacher. See ya. And I'm surprised there must be some really stern words at home to prevent the students who think like I do. I don't think I'm particularly special, to keep them in school and not giving the teacher the Pop-Tart.
Giving them the Pop-Tart.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a matter of discretion, too, for these teachers to look at the situation and analyze whether there was a threat, whether there was, a potential use of force. If he merely moved it out of the way, there was not an issue. It was not making a statement. It was not making a threat. And, of course, authorities have the ability to have that discretionary call. I think with online school, kids are exposed to a lot of different lifestyles and different potential just being exposed to some things that maybe you would not want your children to see in the background of some of these calls that are really more important than whether someone's holding a Pop-Tart shaped gun. So I think that having that discretion, these policies I think need to be in place, but of course, whether there's a threat or whether there's a statement being made about this definitely has to play into the policy.
Right. Election Day, Paul?
Yeah, let's talk about Election Day. We had Election Day a week ago tomorrow, and it took the media all of about 3 days in an extremely tight election in which I still wouldn't call a victor for the media, including, I wrote about this on the Gun Mag website, the formerly reliable Fox News to make a couple really big leaps and declare Biden the winner. There's lots of, I'm going to call it shenanigans going on in Wisconsin, in Georgia, in Michigan, certainly, in Nevada, definitely.
Arizona?
Yeah, I don't
Pennsylvania?
I don't think it's anywhere close to time. I looked it up earlier. We gave 37 days for the Bush-Gore election in 2000. It took 37 days for that to finally come down to, yes, Bush won. And we have to now jump in 3 days to an uncertain conclusion. I'm not buying it, guys.
I agree. And I just saw something today saying that the head of the General Services Administration, which handles the transition, is under fire because they haven't provided transition offices, et cetera, to Biden and Harris. And her response was, the election hasn't been finalized yet.
Right. Even if it could be finalized, it's not at the dates to finalize it, because every state has got a certain number of days before their folks have to do the final stuff. So everything right now says that it is, I don't know what the words are, but it has words that say that it's not final, it's proposed, it's temporary. I don't know what the word is. But there's words. No, it's not yet certified. It is, I don't know what the word is, but there is a word that actually, when you go to the Board of Elections websites, it will say, here it is, but it's not final. And they have a certain number of days where they're gathering the last of all of the votes, pending. They're not pending. I don't know what the word is.
Amanda, I've been studying, I gave myself a crash course on election fraud, about a 6-hour course today. It turns out it's hard to hide a lie. Typically what you see is, oh, look over here, there's an unusual number of votes. Oh, look, in that same district or precinct, there's an unusually low number of rejected votes. That tells us that the votes that were added were stuffed. Because when people handle ballots, they make mistakes. They do things that typically they may vote for multiple candidates when they have to choose between a list. And if you don't see any of that, then the voters didn't produce those votes. When you see an extraordinary number of ballots rejected, and then you go and examine them, and they all had a particular candidate selected, but something else then invalidated them, you go, that's not how voters vote. There are even statistical tests on what happens as you add up these votes. This election doesn't pass the smell test in any number of states.
Well, and right now it's 6, but it's 6 that are right at the close. But there's others that have that same thing going on. You're right. And one other piece, Rob, is that the county chairmen have a pretty good idea where their county is going to fall. You
Right.
know, so in my county, I know that I'm a purple county. So not red, not blue. I'm going to win some, I'm going to lose some, you know, that's kind of how it's going to fall. And if for some reason it swings all one way or all the other, it's going to swing there and it's going to eke right over to the line. But it is not going to sway completely one way or another because that's not how voters are. And this is what we're seeing.
When somebody comes in with a flash drive in Virginia and goes, "Oh, here, I found some more votes," and they're all for one candidate, those were never cast by voters. That's, as you say, that's not how voters vote. Not in any precinct.
Right.
Fortunately, I know the media would like to stampede us, and perhaps I'll be blatant about it, stampede their candidate into the White House. There are some very honest, and I'll call them brilliant, legal minds who are going, not so fast. We still have the rule of law. And John, you're the senator to the South. Lindsey Graham found his courage, and he said, "You can't roll over for this. Because if we do, we'll never have another honest election ever. If fraud of this level..." I mean, if we'd have the United States of Chicago if we let fraud like this continue. I did see some commenters, international commenters, about people who had observed our elections, and I didn't know, but voter fraud has been criticized in the United States for many voting cycles. Their comments were that they're surprised there were any fair elections in the U.S., which shocked me and saddened me.
It would sadden me as well. I mean, one of the best and snarkiest comments I read was saying, if we can determine the winner on American Idol, yet we can't figure out who won the presidency, something's wrong.
Right.
I agree. There's
the same note. The same note was
shenanigans.
Get a bunch of the clerks from Chick-fil-A. They'll stand out there, and as you come by, they'll take a tally. They'll have it all wrapped up in 45 minutes.
That's right. At 9:45. Yep.
Right. Just so obviously not
It's
true, but I understand the spirit of what they're saying.
And it's a little bit of an offshoot of this, but you know, I do a lot of work in the blind community as well, and the people with disabilities, and accessible voting has been an issue nationwide. And it comes down to the fact that every state kind of has to reinvent the wheel for their own community. And if there was a way to roll out a successful program nationwide, maybe we could have Chick-fil-A in charge of it.
If we do it right, then we could. I like that idea.
If it could be replicated, because it's really a problem in a lot of communities where it's just not accessible, or it's not efficient, or, and you know, as we've seen, it's not honest.
Honor is tied to honest. That's really the piece. So here's the question I've got for you guys: is if right now the Democrats believe that their guy won. They have called it, they've claimed it, their guy won. And we're saying not so fast. Our guy might have won. What do you think's going to happen if it's overturned, and what do you think's going to happen if it's not overturned?
Nothing good either way.
I think as long as they're winning, they'll call for unity. And they'll say every vote should count, and then if we count every vote and they'll lose, they'll say not my president. I don't think that's an extrapolation into the future. I think that's an accurate description of the last 4 years. Should I expect something different for the next 4?
Except now this time, I think you'll have more violence than you did 4 years ago.
Yes.
But I think we've allowed violence to be acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we really have. It's become the norm in some cities, and it's like, oh well,
it's become normalized.
Yes.
Yeah, George. Well, that was intentional. Now, one of the candidates, a Democrat incumbent in Pennsylvania, said, "Wow, I barely was reelected," and one of the reasons was the Democrat Party became the party of defund the police and let's have a riot for a few months. And he goes, that doesn't sell in Pennsylvania. You might be able to get away with it in Philadelphia, but up here, I had to work very hard, and it's going to kill us.
Right.
Well, you know,
I don't know.
McCaskill said something very similar on MSNBC. He said, socialism, defund the police, violence, and we're going to be losing out. And she got criticized by AOC, who said, we don't need to listen to losers, people who lose elections.
Wow.
Got a social media comment coming in. Ohio says, need to standardize the whole thing across the country. And I would tend to agree with that. I'm really worried about who does the standardizing.
Ohio's done a pretty good job, but it's because Judicial Watch came, 6, 7, 8 years ago and kicked our keisters around the block a couple times about how many people we had registered and how old they were and all of that kind of stuff. And so they've done a great job in Ohio cleaning it up. And so now you can use us as a role model, not because we did anything special, but because Judicial Watch was like, hey, you guys suck really bad.
Let me ask you guys something. How many people here had to show an ID to vote?
I did. Yep, all of us.
I vote with my concealed carry license because I use my concealed carry license because I want them to see this chubby little old lady has got a license and got a gun.
John's point is the places in doubt are non-ID states.
Right.
North Carolina.
Yeah.
We passed it as a constitutional amendment, and a judge threw it out. It's back. It potentially is back in because the Court of Appeals overthrew him, but they said making people show an ID was racist. Even though the state would you could use driver's license, college ID, military ID. There was like a list, 24 items long.
Mm-hmm.
Many of which would have been provided to you for free by the state.
Right.
That's John. To get on welfare, you need an ID. Yet we don't call that racist.
Yeah.
But the fact that you said it means that you're a racist.
And I don't. My black
you.
foster children might have been really surprised to know that. That'll become quite a shock, but all right. Sorry, fellas. Didn't know. I'd have told you if I'd known. Anyway.
Our writer, Dana, is watching tonight, and he says, I heard Joe Frazier voted in Philly.
Right.
Does that also mean Muhammad Ali voted in Louisville, Kentucky?
Very well could have. Very, very well could have.
Paul, before we run out the time, do we want to comment about the SAF's great legal cases that they're pulling up?
Yes, we absolutely have to, and we've got about 3 minutes left. Yeah.
And there are 3 cases.
Yeah. Let's. Who wants to take this?
John, speed round.
Jump in.
Well, SAF, along with Firearms Policy Coalition, has done cases in New York on carry, in New Jersey on carry, and in Rob's state of Louisiana, not on carry, but on whether or not people who are 18 to 20, but not yet 21, can actually buy a handgun through an FFL. I mean, there was a case in Texas, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what you're seeing, in my opinion, is cases now are being brought out again and going to hopefully be pushed up because there is a majority on the Supreme Court that probably would support the Second Amendment. And John Roberts may just have to go along.
We had a discussion on Bill Frady's show today that, we should have left a better legacy for the next generation as we tried to defend the right to keep and bear arms. And I said, Bill, hundreds of appeals court judges, 3 constitutionalists on the U.S. Supreme Court, a load of litigation that's now headed right for them. That should be a legacy that may stand for centuries.
I'm telling you what hear the cases.
Yes,
they just have to entertain the cases. If they hear it, then maybe we have a chance.
But look what they did to the 9th District Circuit Court and how they've changed that mix. I mean, it's going to have an impact for a long time. And to Robin's point, then they will hear the cases, because now all of a sudden the mix is such that the ones who don't want to don't get a choice.
And regardless of the outcome of the election, Trump is still president until January 20th. There are probably more slots to fill.
Yes.
There is that.
Are
so
there?
What do we
There
say
might not
about?
be. I thought they got them all.
They're
There's
working on it.
There are a few
Did you
people
know
that are still out there.
Did you know that they'd left 138 open spots between the Obama era and the Trump era, because they had left them open for Hillary, so that the word on the street is that way those judges would be that would be responsible to Hillary, emboldened to Hillary, and so that was one of the reasons why he got so many opportunities. So it's going to be interesting. Now, how about these? What are they? When the president writes the presidential decrees, what kind of decrees could
executive orders?
Executive orders. What kind of executive orders can Trump leave as a legacy? So
And
if he doesn't.
Nothing that can't immediately be reversed if he loses the election.
Paul,
I don't know.
We've had judges who said that President Trump could not overturn previous executive orders on immigration. John
Bingo.
Snow.
Okay, you're right.
Some
John
judges
Roberts has gone along with it.
Yep,
I'm like,
I wonder what they have on Roberts.
Get your pen out and get it ready to go. That's all I got to say.
You know what? I would do it tomorrow, because simply if he wins, no big deal. I mean, it's continuation of policy. If he loses, there you go.
There you go.
Well, to back up for just a second, we were talking about standardizing voting. It would be great if we didn't standardize the software, so we ran multiple systems in parallel, because it now looks like a one vote counting system, Dominion software, is heavily biased to change Republican votes to Democrats.
That
John,
3% shift. Yeah.
Now, the one thing I did hear today, that if Biden does become president, person he's considering for his cabinet as Secretary of Health and Human Services is Mitt Romney. And I'm like, that would be great. Utah can actually get a real Republican senator.
Senator, that'd be wonderful.
Well, hey guys, we are way long on this segment. Is there anything else we need to talk about in news? Looking down the list, Montana got stronger state preemption. That's good. And we've been pretty much talking about the election. So, yeah, that's... Cam Edwards is saying that there's going to be wicked gun restrictions coming if he's actually elected. And, yeah, I believe that. And I want to hold off on that story until we actually know for sure we're going to be dealing with a President Harris, because I don't think Biden's going to be there for long.
Right.
All right, folks, let's go ahead. We're going to step aside to break. When we come back, we've got just one solo DGU to give you, and this is an interesting one out of the Las Vegas area. Hang on, we'll be right back with that right after we hear from Concealment Solutions.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by Concealment Solutions. Jason Christensen makes the most comfortable inside the waistband holster on the market, bar none. The Black Mamba. Some of the other products offered are the Sidewinder outside the waistband holster and Python gun belts. Every product that Concealment Solutions makes has unsurpassed craftsmanship that shows in the fit and finish of the product. Visit ConcealmentSolutions.com to view all of the products available, and you can get 10% off your order when you enter the promo code POLITICS in the promo code box at checkout. That's ConcealmentSolutions.com.
Hey, and welcome back to the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. I got it right. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The defensive gun use segment is intended as information, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations, although they should be. Who wants to read this one? Boy, I'm hearing crickets. I'll go ahead and take it off.
I'll take it.
Go for it, Rob.
This is from Henderson, Nevada. Last December, a 17-year-old male and another teen were near the home of Edward Croker. These guys had missed a bus at Green Valley Parkway and Sunset Road. They're walking back to an apartment complex when the 17-year-old stops to urinate behind a quick wash car wash. At that point, the other male takes out a firearm out of his backpack and fired one round towards Sunset Road. The teenager then handed the gun to his friend, who said, "If you're going to bust, then I'm going to bust." He fired one round at either the block wall behind Edward Croker's house or into the wall of the quick wash. Multiple gunshots, hard to tell. He then fired the weapon several more times in an unknown direction. Mr. Croker was in bed playing games on his cell phone and hears the gunshots behind his house. He's already on alert because his vehicle had been keyed, his tires slashed, and someone had entered his home through an unlocked door. He had previously told police he believed those were the work of his son's former drug dealers coming to call. So Croker hears the shots, picks up his Glock 19, and opens his bedroom window. Gets the blinds out of the way. He sees two teens in the parking lot and the first teen holding the pistol, at which point he sees another shot being fired, and Mr. Croker is placed in fear for his life. His words, close quote. He fired 3 rounds through the screen, striking the gun-wielding teen in the head. Croker then laid down on the floor and called 911. The other teen saw his friend spin around and fall to the ground. He put his head on his backpack and then hid the gun in a nearby dumpster. That's called incriminating. He also picked up one shell casing and threw it in an unknown direction, which caused a delay in the investigation. Croker told police that the way the teen was pacing back and forth, yelling, "Come on, mother," very aggressively. When police arrived at the scene, Croker called down to the police from his bedroom window. "They're shooting behind my house, and I shot back at them," close quote. Mr. Croker expressed remorse and told the police he wished he could have taken back all of the events, wished none of it ever happened. The Clark County District Attorney voluntarily dismissed the murder complaint against this Army veteran in a rare decision and after a, quote, full review of all the facts and circumstances. The DA said in a statement that Croker acted in self-defense when he shot and killed 17-year-old Corey Leno in the alley behind his house in December. Ladies and gentlemen, was that a clear, immediate, and unavoidable threat?
I believe so. I believe it could easily have been explained that way, especially if the the good guy was looking out the window, finding out what was going on, he sees a gunshot in his direction. I could absolutely say, I could articulate that's an immediate deadly threat that required a response.
Have you guys seen how your house is constructed and how bulletproof it's not?
Exactly.
And so being anywhere near someone who's firing in your direction, your house isn't bulletproof. There is nothing that's going to stop those bullets from coming through to harm you or your loved ones.
You know, when I do dry fire in my house, I have a bookshelf set up specifically to fire at. Now, there's no ammunition in the gun, obviously, no ammunition in the room, but just in case everything fails and something goes bang, I still have a specific location that I will increase the possibility of that bullet being trapped, simply because drywall doesn't stop bullets. 2x4s don't generally stop bullets. You got to go through a lot of layers to slow a bullet down before it drops to the ground.
Can I tell you a silly story like that? I took a gal to do some competitive shooting. We set up the course, and I forgot that she's significantly shorter than I am. She raises the gun and shoots at the target. It was very close. Turns out she shot right through a 4x4 fence post. The sights cleared it. She never saw the fence post. She scored fairly well, too. We just had to pick the metal chips out of the target to figure out which hole was hers. So, yeah, that was a brilliant example. It won't stop a bullet.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about on this one, folks? I think we're going to have an early show tonight. We're going to go ahead and set this segment aside. When we come back, we've got our listener feedback and blog note segment, and we'll be right back with that right after we hear from JPFO.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. JPFO.org.
It's the superhero music. Everybody, welcome back to the final segment of the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Twice in a row. I got it right, twice in a row. This is our final segment, and normally we ask for emails, and I can tell you definitively for sure, now that I'm home and I've got all my email software synced up, we've had no emails, and that doesn't bother me because we're getting comments online as we do the show. I think that's fantastic. Please keep continuing to do that. If you want to email us, the address to do it at is on air at politicsandguns.com. Let's go ahead and go off to talk about blogs. Rob, are you finally done with the hurricane delays and putting stuff up over at Slowfax?
I've got another tropical storm coming in. I think it's too late in this season to get hurricanes, but that doesn't mean it's clear sailing yet. I wrote an article after the election. We complain that candidates are for sale, but too often, frankly, so are we. Many of us take the easy course of action. We let each candidate, and the media with them, define themselves and define their opponents. We've rejected the hard work of studying the candidate's record to see how his actions have revealed his character. Did we elect or reject the man or the media myth? That brings up an important question. To whom does the politician owe his allegiances? To the voters or to the campaign donors? Is the elected politician morally bound to fulfill the promises he made to us, or does the candidate owe the special interests and the media elites who sold the candidate to us? Well, that depends on which we bought. If we did the hard work, then the candidate owes us. If we took the easy way out, then the candidate owes the special interests. My articles are up at Clash Daily, at Amoland, and at my blog, slowfacts.wordpress.com. John, you've been on vacation. What you been able to get up to? No lawyers, only guns and money.
Well, I didn't do much of any blogging while on vacation. I do have a post up about how far off the pollsters were in their predictions of a blue wave. They pretty much need to retire. Oh, and I have a post up about my 12-hour timeout from Twitter. They said I violated their code of conduct by posting, quote, non-consensual nudity. What they called nudity was actually a post about a statistical analysis of the election which indicated irregularities. They eventually unlocked my account and said I did not violate the rules. Plus, I never did take down that post. They were saying, oh, you have to take it down. I'm like, no. And they actually apologized. That and more is at onlygunsandmoney.com.
All right. Well, if I could, there's one other person on the staff that's been doing a significant amount of writing this week. And I did put articles up at thegunmag.com. One that just hit today that I want to talk about is that post-election, pre-election, it was tough to get ammo. Post-election, it's there, but it's only online, and it is expensive as all get out. I went to a local store and took pictures, and there is 5 racks of ammo shelves for handguns in probably a 30-foot long row. And in all of that, all I found at my local gun shop were 2 boxes of 32 ACP. All those rows and all those ammos, all of handgun rounds, there were 2 boxes locally of 32 ACP. I went online, I did searches, I found 9mm and 45. 45 is not cheap. The cheapest 45 I found was 75 cents a round. But it is available if you're willing to pay the prices. I don't see that prices, no matter what happens with the election, prices I do not believe are going to come down for at least another year. And I'm thinking we're probably looking at least, best case scenario, 6 months for production to catch up. And you can find my stuff at thegunmag.com.
Paul, I was in a gun shop just on Sunday, and I overheard the clerk telling a new gun owner that they are now selling 9mm by the half box. Not a full box, but by the half box, just to spread it out so that more people can buy it.
Wow.
That way they don't have to take out a loan on their house.
It was still $15 for a half box.
Yeah.
A ball.
I've been taking a handgun class the last several weeks. It's every Thursday, and it's a couple hours a night, so it's spread out over time. And I had ordered ammo, but it had not come in the first night of the class, so I went to the shooting range. I said, do you happen to have any 40? And the clerk says, yeah, we got some. And he handed me a cellophane baggie filled with 40.
Range reloads?
No, it was, they buy it in bulk, but it quite literally comes in a big can, and they just, sort out, 50 round groups, and when I got my baggie, I almost wanted to take a picture of it, but they don't allow pictures inside the range. I should have ran out to my car. I really should have.
You're like, hey man, you got some stuff, man.
Exactly. Exactly. I even forgot where we're at in the show. I think we're about ready to close things up. I need to remind everybody, join the Facebook listeners group, please. It's over on Facebook, just search Polite Society Podcast. Listeners, as long as Facebook is still around, and I've got a feeling with everybody leaving Facebook, it may become MySpace before long. But if you're there, if you're on Facebook, look up the group. There's a lot of great conversation that goes on there. That does wrap it up with our episode of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society Podcast. I'd like to thank North Carolina Lieutenant Governor-elect Mark Robinson for joining us today. So for Amy, Dana, Gary, Tracy, John, Susan, Amanda, Robin, and Rob,
until next time,
stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
All right, we're done recording, and folks, I'm going to go ahead and shut down the streams. I want to thank everybody for watching. Please come back. We're going to be every Monday, same bat time, same bat channel. Come join us, and come join us Wednesday night for the Armed Society Podcast, a production of the